Because what you, the unsung heroes in the wastewater industry, do matters. Join me, Suzan Chin-Taylor, the DooDoo Diva, a longtime veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry each week as I deliver industry know-how from industry pros who know how. Whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology, training and retaining great talent, sales and marketing, leadership and growth, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Let's dive in.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DooDoo Diva Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we are visiting with Chad Morin, who is the co-owner of Gould Solenoid Valves. So welcome to the show, Chad.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Well, we decided to bring you onto the show for a number of reasons. One, with all of the mergers and acquisitions taking place in our industry, I found it really fascinating to stumble upon a family-owned and run business that has been family-owned and operated for how many years now, Chad?
Almost 75. We started in 1991, started our first valve company, which was the Atcomatic Valve Company in 1936. And then switched over to the Gould name and been in the Gould family. And then I'm the fourth generation owner since 1951, approaching 75 years.
Wow. I think that's really nice because you shared with me before we came on the show about the really interesting corporate culture you have. And I think that's important for people to know that, you were saying that you have many, many employees that have been with you a long, long time. And what do you attribute that to?
We've got employees that have been here for 40 plus years, multiple of my operations managers, 48 years, our brothers, and they've both been here 42 and 45 years. Their father worked here before that. One of their sons has worked here. My office manager's been here 30 plus years. Her son's one of our machinists.
Wow.
And I attribute that just to our company culture, that we really are not just a family-owned business, but family. These people have worked for us for generations. Their fathers, their grandfathers worked for us. So it does provide a sense of family throughout the whole company, that everybody does what they need to do. We take care of each other and, just keep trucking along.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because you don't hear much of that these days. And so that was really refreshing to learn about a little bit about the background of the company. So you manufacture solenoid valves. So for those who may not be familiar with that term, can you kind of give us a solenoid 101? And I do understand that these valves are used, throughout our industry, from, things in a wastewater treatment plant, industrial wastewater treatment, but also on some of the trucks, such as the combination vehicles and jetters and all those types of things for those applications. So just give us a little bit of rundown on what these valves are and their purpose and what they're meant to do.
Of course, a solenoid valve is an electronically operated valve. We manufacture two-way valves in either a normally closed or a normally open position, and that just indicates which way you want it to fail. If there's a power failure, if it's a normally closed, energized to open, normally open, you're going to energize it to close. And I always kind of explain it to people as it's one of those things that everybody uses and nobody knows anything about. Because they are used in everything. Essentially, it's just a valve that opens and closes on a signal for air, water, gasoline, diesel, steams, corrosive fluids, anything. So we do a lot of stuff in the water treatment industry as far as, grit removal systems, just fill valves, flush valves, mixing valves with the difficult, different chemicals, compounds that are used in treatment process. So yeah, they're basically just a valve that opens and closes on a signal, typically operated by a computer to control the flow.
Right. So now you were saying, it's almost like, because it's used in everything, I imagine there's lots of manufacturers that make these type of valves. So it becomes almost like a commodity purchase. And we got into the conversation about BABA certified or BABA approved. And so for those who, may not be familiar with that term, correct me if I'm wrong, it stands for Build America, Buy America, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And so you had shared with me a lot of times when you get a prospect, a new customer coming on the phone, or even an existing customer, the first question out of their mouth when they're thinking about buying is this product BABA certified? So first, for those that might not be familiar, other manufacturers that might be tuning in, what is making this so important that is the first question out of their mouth for you? And then we're going to do a little bit deeper dive on things that they should be thinking about going beyond this first question.
Of course. Yeah, it's especially in the water treatment industry. The first two questions typically are the BABA, the Build America, Buy America, and the AIS, which is the American Iron and Steel Act.
Okay.
Just requirements. It's more of a quality thing. You know what you're getting. As you said, the valves can be a kind of commodity item. You can get cheaper valves, but then that all leads to how much does your downtime cost? What is the ramifications of that valve failing in the system? How long does it take you to get another one, get that uninstalled, install a new one? So not just the cost of the products, but the downtime of the application can be crucial. So it's just a certification of quality that these are built in America, that all of our iron and steel is ethically sourced in America. And then all of our valves are cast valve bodies. So they're not a diaphragmed machined body, which makes it a more durable, longer lasting valve.
Can you
every
explain
valve
the difference?
we send out the door is custom assembled and tested.
Going back to that, could you explain the difference? Because people may not understand when you were saying diaphragm versus cast, and obviously that has to do a lot with the quality, but explain the two processes and maybe why you decided to do the one over the other.
Yeah, I mean, basically, a cast mold is liquefied metal, heated up, poured into a mold of the valve body, of the components, and you either have investment casting or sand casting, depending on the stainless steel or the bronze castings, to where a diaphragm style is more of just a machined metal pieces put together. So if you hold one of our valves in your hand compared to multiple competitors of ours, you can just feel the difference of the pieces of metal that are screwed or bolted together, kind of thing. So it does lend to the durability of it, the longevity of it, just the way they operate.
Okay. So beyond the BABA certification, what do you recommend? And as obviously this is an educational, not a pitch for yours, but what are some of the key questions? Yeah. And we were talking about how much is your downtime worth as being one of those things that you touched on a few seconds ago. Was what are some of those questions that a purchaser should be asking beyond that first question? Is it BABA certified? Because obviously he's trying to meet his quotient or, having that quality assurance. Beyond that, when trying to decide about who they should buy these valves from.
Correct. Yeah. The BABA, the AIS is always an important one, but even looking beyond that factors, obviously I'd want to make sure that company has been in business for a while. They know what they're doing. They have a good reputation in the industry. A huge thing on our side is the customer service. In this industry, these types of products, you're going to have problems from time to time. How are those problems going to be dealt with? Are they going to be dealt with quickly to keep you running? A knowledgeable salesperson, because the valves can be built and tested depending on the media, air, water, chemicals that are going through there. So compatibility, if you are running chemicals through it, is that compatible with a standard bronze brass valve, a standard stainless steel, or do you need to go with the complete 316 stainless steel that is better against corrosive properties like that? What's the standard lead time? So if I've got a valve in there and it does fail, or it's been in service for years and it's time to replace, there's several companies out there that it could be 8-10 weeks to get a valve.
Wow.
So what do you do with that downtime to compare, most of our stuff, because we keep stock on the shelf, those types of things, I can get something out in a day or same day. Same with rebuild kits. I mean, over time, you're going to have corrosion, you're going to have buildup, you're going to have parts wear out. People get on a standard maintenance schedule. Do you have a rebuild kit available? Can you install that rebuild kit while the valve's still in line and all the piping, or does everything have to be uninstalled? So a lot of it goes down to that quality and also the availability of it, of the lead times, and being able to get, whether it's a new valve, a rebuild kit, or certain parts and pieces that you need to keep going.
I hear this subject come up a lot, that it's what is your true cost over the life cycle of anything you choose, whether it be a valve or a truck or, rehabilitation material for a pipeline. What is your true cost, lifetime cost? In that a lot of folks, and maybe you run into this and maybe you can speak to this, you might buy, oh, well, this one was, I'm just picking a number, $100 cheaper than product A.
Mm-hmm.
But what am I going to have to deal with over the next 5 years? Yeah. Versus it's kind of like a pay me now, pay me later. And so where does yours sit in that kind of model? Is it pay more upfront, but you're going to have, if you spread that cost over the lifetime, it's actually going to cost you less when you do the math?
Correct. I mean, it certainly is you get what you pay for scenario.
Right.
We're not the cheapest valves on the market by any means, but we are pretty competitive with the Ascos, the Parkers, the names that everybody knows. On our standard type of stuff, we're right in line, same type of pricing with those. But it's like anything. You can get online and buy some from China, from Pakistan, wherever, and save a couple $100 here. But how many of those are you going to have to buy over the next year, 5 years, compared to that one? And again, you're saving a couple $100 on the valve. You might end up buying 3 of them, spending more money on the valve. But what's your application? Some of these people have hundreds of thousands of dollars a day in production. One valve goes down. Is that worth saving $100?
Exactly right. So, in just wrapping up, just because you've been at this for so long, what are some of the best practices that you would recommend when people are buying these valves to keep them in optimal running order? Things that they may not think about or overlook that are critical to get the longest life out of them and less downtime?
Of course. And again, every application is different.
Right.
What's going through it? What kind of cycle rates? We have some applications where they're turning on and off every month or two. And we've got people that are running applications where they're opening and closing every 10 seconds, 24 hours a day. So it's really just knowing your specific application, knowing it's a maintenance schedule. When you're doing your maintenance on all your other machines, on your pumps, on this and that, do we need to put a rebuild kit in this once a year, once every other year? A big thing that a lot of people overlook is the filtration, the strainers in line, because it is a valve with moving parts. Our valve can be brand new, perfect. You put it in a pipe that is old, got some corrosion, got some stuff going on in it. Then you flush it, all that stuff goes into the valve and impedes the movement of the moving parts. So the biggest thing is keeping the valve clean, keeping the junk out of it, whether that's steam traps, strainers, wide traps, whatever that you have in there, and knowing your specific application. Do I need to change that filter every month? Do I need to change it every quarter? So it really is just keeping an eye on things, knowing what your planned maintenance schedule is, preventing, build up debris, those kind of things from getting into the valve is the best practice.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for sharing, your little things of wisdom about I don't want to say the lowly, but the often forgotten and overlooked solenoid valve that a
Definitely.
lot of times we take things for granted. Those little tiny things that are in the big picture, in the big machine, that are really responsible for keeping things running. And they may be small, but they are certainly mighty from what I've learned today. So, Chad,
Certainly.
thank you for coming on the show and kind of explaining, some things that people should be looking for when they are in need of these essential little items that they may be considered a commodity, but don't buy them like a commodity. Because
Correct.
it's like you were saying, pay me now or pay me later, or you get what you pay for. I love that line. How much is your downtime really worth? And that is such an important consideration. And it's sometimes very hard to attach a dollar figure to that, but it goes beyond I think sometimes it goes beyond the monetary. And then think about the stress for the operator or the plant manager when that thing fails. His
Certainly.
blood pressure or her blood pressure going up, and the guy at the top going, oh wait, okay, we have to meet that production, and this thing is going offline, and everything is going sideways. And so, ounce of prevention.
I get those calls. I get those calls often, and it definitely feels great to relieve some of that stress and be like, hey, we got you. I can get something out of here today for you.
Yeah, and that's another important thing. That,
they're stressed out. They've got downtime, and think, last person they talked to just said, hey, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So everybody's scrambling. What do we do?
Right. And that's good to know that there are still some vendors out there, and even American-based, which I love, that still have that model of customer service is everything. That next day, not those waiting times. Now, I know, for a while, especially after COVID, that there were, supply chain issues, but it seems like your company has managed to stay ahead of that curve to keep these essential businesses, especially in the wastewater field and process wastewater treatment, up and running. So, thank you for that. Really.
You're welcome. Yeah, there's quality and customer service is kind of the linchpins of what has kept us in business for almost 75 years. So that's all we know.
All right. Oh, I love that. And so for those who are listening that might want to know more about what you can offer and see if you can help them on their next purchase, how can they reach you?
You can reach us. Website is gouldvalve.com. Sales email, pretty easy, sales@gouldvalve.com. My personal email is Chad, CHAD, @gouldvalve.com. And our 800 number is 800-634-6853.
All right. Well, Chad, thank you very much. And to those of you listening, thanks for tuning in. Hope you got a lot out of this. I certainly learned a lot of, fun little trivia facts about this subject. And so until next time, keep it flowing.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Be sure to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest on the show, click the Be a Podcast guest link below in the show notes for more information. Thanks again for joining me, the DooDoo Diva, on this week's episode of the Smells Like Money podcast.